You hear that? You hear that? That's special. There's a lot of lions, tigers, and bears, but there ain't but one razorback.
McFadden, say goodbye. Darren McFadden, 80 yards, touchdown.
Fly ball, deep left field. Out of here. Madden for maybe the win. Oh, the follow is good. Arkansas in overtime. I think he just made SportsCenter again. Arkansas is in hog heaven. They won the first ever national championship.
All I want you to do tonight is play your best. Don't worry about making a mistake. You can make a mistake, that's fine, as long as you're going 100 miles an hour.
New face in the quarterback room? Let's talk about that on this week's episode of WPIG Weekly. Welcome in. This is episode 56, brought to you by Homefield, home of premium vintage collegiate apparel. You know, we say it week in, week out. Go check them out. They got fantastic stuff. You know, promo code Variety Sports and all caps to receive 15% off that first order. Go get, you know, your loved ones some fantastic Razorback Christmas gifts. They have everything from t-shirts, pullovers, jackets, you know, whatever you want in different designs, different hog styles from different eras. So go check them out today. You fantastic stuff. You find something you like, and you can use that promo code, get yourself 15% off. And we'll jump in here with portal season is continuing, and it is still as crazy as ever. And so now Arkansas is up to several more players in the transfer portal. You know, we talked about some of them last week. I think a few since we've talked last week is you have most notably Rocket Sanders entered the portal. We mentioned that briefly last week. And then you have a few other guys. Defensive tackle Tank Booker entered today. You got defensive back Malik Chavis, another tight end Hunter Talley, wide receiver Bryce Stevens. Kind of those are the newer guys that have entered the portal since kind of we last talked about this last week. Some other updates, guys that have entered the portal from Arkansas. Chris Paul, committed to Ole Miss, so we'll see him next year on the other side. And then you have linebacker Jordan Crook also has committed. He will be going to Arizona State. So entering what was the Pac-12, they'll be in the Big 12 now. So he'll be in Big 12 country. And so, not a lot of shocking portal entries yet. The only one being that biggest of Rocket Sanders. Any other takes you got here, Seth, before we jump into some portal commits for Arkansas?
No, nothing too crazy. I know Rocket had a visit with South Carolina Gamecocks, and he had a photo shoot there and stuff. So there's people that are speculating that he's going to commit there. I don't think anything is official yet. I'm still, kind of curious to see if a lot of these guys stay in the SEC. Obviously, Jordan Crook going outside of the SEC to the Big 12, probably not a bad decision. But anyway, it'll be kind of cool to see where these guys end up landing. And here's the thing, It sucks losing players to the transfer portal, but it's part of it. You want to wish these guys nothing but the best. You see a ton of people on social media that are trashing players for leaving or trashing players for taking a visit here but then not committing or whatever the case may be. These guys are doing what they can to further their career, so you got to root for them if you can. Even if they're going to a potential rival, they're going to be friends with a lot of the guys on the team still. I guarantee you, these guys are going to be getting together after these games, talking, catching up, having a good old time laughing, and, remembering the times where they played together. Like, if the teammates can be civil about it and have a great time and still be friends, I mean, us fans got to do a better job of rooting for these guys, even if they do, go somewhere else, especially in the SEC. So get better about it, y'all.
That's very true. And so as we flip over to Arkansas portal commits for Arkansas, as we mentioned, we have offensive lineman Keyshawn Blackstock. Other guys that have committed, we had tight end Gregory Genros, the JUCO guy, but as of just about an hour ago, he is decommitted. I think that has a little bit to play with another tight end that we went out of the portal and got from Eastern Michigan, Andreas Pasake. He's from Denmark. He's talked with Froholt that used to be at Arkansas. I've seen where they've had conversations, kind of probably give him a little insight about Arkansas. So he's committed. He's more of a blocking style tight end, kind of I expect to come in and fill that Nathan Bax type of role as he's graduating, leaving out of and ran out of eligibility. And so that probably has to do a little bit of why Gregory Genros decommitted. Other commits is, quarterback Taylor Green, out of Boise State. If you haven't checked it out already, go check out. We did a fantastic quick segment with him earlier this week, just kind of getting to know him, and go check that out. And, he's got a great attitude, excited to see what he brings to Arkansas this season. And then linebacker Brooks Juracek, son of AD, he's transferring in from Wake Forest, kind of coming back as a preferred walk-on, and played his senior season at Fayetteville High School. So it'll be interesting to see what he brings to this linebacker room that, as of right now, is a little bit depleted. And so, anything on those portal commits, Seth?
No, y'all go check out our video with Taylor. He was a really cool person to catch up with. Fantastic attitude. I think that was one of the biggest things I took away from talking to him. Is he just seems like a guy that's really hungry, wants to come in and learn everything he can. He was previously recruited by Petrino at Missouri State a little bit, so had some ties there. So I think that worked out in Arkansas's favor to get him out of the portal. He's got a ton of raw talent. If you go watch some of his highlights from the I can't remember the Western American Conference title game. Yeah, Mountain West, excuse me, against UNLV. He put on a highlight reel there. Had an up and down season. We'll cover a little bit more in a little bit, but that was a heck of a game. And so you see a lot of the raw potential he brings. So that's an exciting one for sure. And he just seems like a great leader type personality. And it's cool to see Juracek's son coming home to Fayetteville to kind of get back around the family. And heck, man, with some of the development that he's had, there's a real strong chance that he competes for some playing time in that linebacker role.
Yeah, that is so true. And so then we'll turn over to Arkansas players that officially announced they're returning. So, as of last week, two of the big names that we'd heard was Luke Haas and Ty Washington. Well, over the weekend, we got some fantastic news about other players returning. A few of those being Andrew Armstrong and Isaac Tesla, both officially announced that they're returning. That's big for, to have some Arkansas or receivers that have been in the program for a year already. Yeah, it'll be a little bit different offense, but guys that have been here and can come in and bring some experience. And then, another guy, Tyrone Broden, we assume he's coming back. He a little bit more cryptic about it. He subtweeted Andrew Armstrong with a Razorback and a heart emoji. So kind of that almost makes us feel like he's going to run it back as well. He's another guy that I think can excel in the Petrino offense, a big bodied receiver. You just look at the guys, different style of guys Petrino had before under him. Colby Hamilton. You've got, Joe Adams that, I feel like if he does come back, we haven't heard anything officially, but Isaiah Satania with his speed can kind of be one of that type of player. Not saying he's going to be Joe Adams, but he kind of gives you reminders of him. And then other guys that have made it official, running backs Rashad Dominion and Isaiah Augusta both announced they're officially coming back. So, our running back room, took a little bit hit with Rocket leaving, AJ Green deciding to leave, but, you got these two guys coming back. You've got, I would think Dominic Johnson's coming back. And then you got Braylon Russell, the freshman that'll be coming in, who's a more of a big-bodied running back compared to, Rashad and Isaiah, who are more speedy, shifty type running backs. So I think this is good signs for Arkansas, especially on the offensive side in the skill player category.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's kind of a nice thing to have a lot of these skill positions come back. These are the guys that I think they already understand a little bit of the jargon and the mentality here at the U of A. There's going to be a lot of new things to learn under Petrino, a whole new, call play system. I mean, there's going to be a lot of things that they're going to have to forget and relearn, which I think all these guys can do that. But just having a little bit of familiarity with the program, so they're not having to learn all the new things, just mainly just the offensive side of things. They at least know where their dorms are, things like that, So it's going to be a good thing. I think this is a good sign that you've got a lot of player buy-in still. Obviously, we didn't touch on him here, but Landon Jackson coming back is another big guy to keep. Somebody that arguably could have been first-round draft pick potential in the NFL. So it's a good thing to see him come back. So even with the year that we had, having some of these bigger name guys come back and show that they're committed, I think that's helping maybe bring in some portal players, guys like that, and then also just kind of provide a little bit of sense of normalcy to the coaches, I'm sure. Obviously, Kenny Guyton staying, and I think that probably had a lot to do with tight ends and wide receivers sticking around. There's some familiarity with him, and I think that's something that those guys are glad to see, that even though you bring in a new OC, there's still some loyalty to the people that were here prior. And I think that kind of resonated throughout the program. So that's a great thing to see. Got to make a lot of moves on offensive line. We talked about it till we're blue in the face. I mean, as long as we can make some improvements there, I think we've got the skill players to really have a dynamic, explosive offense that's not one dimensional. You can run the ball, throw the ball, quarterback can run the ball. I mean, no matter who's back there. I mean, we've got guys potentially returning between Chriswell, Singleton, maybe KJ. We don't know. Obviously, Taylor Green can run the ball fairly well. I mean, there's going to be a lot of potential for Petrino to kind of put his twists on everything and have a lot of options. So I'm excited to see that. But definitely a good feeling for fans and for the state as a whole to see a lot of these guys that, in my opinion, had potential to go to other universities and start. Still want to come play for the Hogs and be those hometown kids.
Yeah, and then another guy that didn't mention, you mentioned Landon Jackson's back. That's big for this Arkansas defense. Another guy, Jalen Braxton, announced he's coming back. He's definitely going to be a big anchor in that secondary for Arkansas. With you have Singletary coming back as well. There's a few portal guys out there that Arkansas is talking to that they think could be not locks, but have a high chance at bringing in some experienced DBs, just like we did last year. I think no official announcement, but I think like Lorando Johnson's going to be back. Signs and different things that have been said if make it seem like it. We haven't had an official announcement, but I don't think you're going to get necessarily official announcements from every single player. Some guys are just going to come back. I think these big name players are the ones that kind of officially say they're coming back, that had really good seasons, and you could potentially see them leaving. But the portal window for right now, this portal season anyway, is a 30-day window, so we'll know more beginning January. I think it closes January 5th. So we'll know more over the next few weeks as, more guys come, more guys leave. It's inevitable. And so once that January 5th date hits, we'll be able to sit down and look at this roster and kind of really break down and see what we're going to look like next season. And so we'll jump over here we'll talk about Taylor Green. We had that video with him kind of talking about him and his visit and, things like that. But let's really dive into some stats here for him. And, like Seth said, he had an up and down season this year. He hit their Boise State's coach got fired mid-season. So, that could have had a little bit to do with his up and down season on kind of maybe the way they were calling plays or whatnot on the offense. But when you start looking and breaking down his stats, he is a dual threat quarterback, big body quarterback, 6'6", 220. On this season, his passing stats, he went 121 of 212, which was 57% completion percentage. He threw for 1,752 yards with an average of 8.3 yards per pass and had 11 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. On the ground, he had 78 carries for 436 yards, averaging 5.6 yards per carry and 9 touchdowns. But I want to kind of break it down. Like we mentioned, coach was fired midseason. Look at his final 3 games of the season. That includes that Mountain West Conference Championship game where he was named MVP of that game. If you look at the stats from those 3 final games, he went 33 of 49, which was good for 67.3% completion rate, 547 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 23 carries for 141 yards and 3 touchdowns, averaging 6.1 yards per carry. So I think that small sample size is a little bit more of what you're going to see from a player of his caliber, his size and his ability when he comes into Arkansas.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Here's the thing: the kid, the raw potential is unreal. I mean, you can see it just in some of the highlight film. I watched some of his highlights just from that championship game. You could tell that he's a baller. I think some of the decision making on trying to force throws and kind of trying to get some of those things maybe coached out will be crucial for Petrino, which I don't think that's going to be a problem at all. You look at what he was able to do with Tyler Wilson, Ryan Mallett, those guys, very, very similar situations. Lamar Jackson, what he was able to do with him, if you look at his entire college career, was just crazy. But all in all, though, I think what it's going to boil down to for somebody like Taylor Green to have success, whether it's this year or if he sits and develops behind somebody else and, takes on a role next year, whatever the case may be, you can tell Petrino kind of wanted this kid even from way on back. So that's a good thing to see. But I think you're going to have the offensive line have significant improvement if somebody like Green is going to have a significant development, and not have as many turnovers. If he's got a little bit more time where he's not having to force the ball out quite as fast or things of that nature, that's going to bode well. We saw it this year with KJ. I mean, you see it. Any team that has offensive line struggles is going to have quarterback play struggles from time to time. That's just all there is to it. So we've got to be able to set these guys up for success, no matter if it's Talon, Jacoby, KJ, I don't know. I think we're all kind of sitting on pins and needles waiting on KJ to make an announcement. That's somebody's name that we haven't said portal news one way or the other. So that's something that everybody's kind of, I think, just kind of sitting on the edge of their seat for, to really know, who can we look forward to, and who is the competition going to be between, and things of that nature. But we've got to make some improvements to give these guys a chance of success no matter what.
Yeah, that's very true. And it's like one thing you pointed out, with that development that he'll have when he comes in, and I think you couldn't ask for a better person to develop him than Petrino himself. I mean, look at what he did with the raw talent that Ryan Mallett had. He came in here and made him a stud quarterback that we had for a couple seasons, and then even Tyler Wilson too. You look at how he was able to develop those guys and to be able to just help them understand and make those reads and whatever it may be. So that untapped potential, I'm excited to see what Petrino is going to kind of mold Green into. And, like Seth said, he even coached Lamar Jackson, who was he fits more of the style of play that Taylor Green has since he's a mobile quarterback. But I think it's one of those things that, you get Petrino in there, you let him mold him, kind of help him understand the offense he wants to run, understanding those techniques, those reads, when to pull it and run kind of situations. And I think, he has a pretty high ceiling if you think about all those things put together and what Coach Petrino could do with the talent with Taylor Green.
I couldn't have said it better myself, man.
And so, just to give you an idea of more stats, 2 years ago, 2022, just to hit these quickly, Green went 166 for 271 passing for 61.3% completion, 2,042 yards, average of 7.5 yards per pass. He had 14 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and then he rushed to 81 carries for 586 yards, averaging 7.2 yards per carry and 10 touchdowns. So he's a guy, I mean, you look at these numbers, he can sling it. He can also run the ball, in his total time at Boise State. You just look at it. I think it's a total of, 44 touchdowns he had compared to, 15 interceptions. That's pretty good when you start looking at those numbers. And I think a lot of people initially, when we were talking about this guy, get skewed by saying, oh, well, he only had 57% completion rate. We don't know what was going on. I mean, something was going on with, that caused their coach to get fired midseason, whether it was offensive scheming, kind of the way he was wanting to run things. And I think, like we said, those final 3 games really shows you a more accurate representation of what you're kind of getting with him, a guy that can complete the ball, throw the ball, but also is a threat on the ground. Those final 2 games, 8 touchdowns to 3 interceptions overall, pretty good. And so, like Seth and I both said, I'm excited to see what we get out of him, how Petrino molds him, and we're not even for sure if he's going to be the starter. He's going to come in and work, compete. You still got Criswell there that, it was hard to judge him in that last game just because of how bad the offensive line was. But who knows? Maybe they come in and compete. I don't know. Maybe Criswell comes in and shows something that Petrino really likes and Green sits a year. Who knows? But I think a guy that comes in is not necessarily wanting to come in and just sit, but, if you get beat out, you get beat out. And I think that's a good thing with healthy competition. And I think that's what we're going to see going into spring ball.
Yeah, I agree. I think that might be something that maybe we're lacking a little bit this past year, and it might have hurt us in the long run.
Yeah. And so with that, we'll take a quick ad break and we'll jump over to Arkansas basketball.
You know what I like? I like to be comfortable. I also love representing my favorite sports teams. And in the Clutch, I am able to have the best of both worlds. In the Clutch Apparel is your one-stop shop for all things sports. They have officially licensed gear from all your favorite teams and players from the NHL, MLB, NFL, and more. They have sports classic tees from yesteryear and beyond. Check out their full website in the link down below. When you enter the promo code Variety Sports, you get 10% off everything site-wide. Feel comfortable with your sports apparel and go over to their website now at endtheclutch.com. And don't forget to use our code Variety Sports to get 10% off.
All right, we are back here with Arkansas basketball news, and Arkansas women's basketball got a big win on December 7th as they beat Louisiana Tech 100-60, so hit triple digits there. Leading scores for Arkansas, I'll give you one guess. It's a simple one. Talia Scott led all scorers with 29 points, followed by Samara Spencer with 20, and Saylor Poffenbarger and Michaela Daniels with 12 each. Leading rebounders in this game was Saylor Poffenbarger with 11, Samara Spencer with 8, and Michaela Daniels with 6. Arkansas shot the ball really well in this game, shooting 55.4% from the field, going 36 of 65, 50% from the three-point range, going 14 of 28, and 53.8% from the free throw line, going 14 of 26. So you'd like to see more free throws hit in this game, but when you look at it as a whole, great win for Arkansas. Gave some of these other players that don't tend to get a lot of playing time in other games, some good playing time to really see what you got in your younger players. So what do you take from this win here, Seth?
Man, they shot the lights out from three. That's the biggest thing. You're going to win a lot of games if you shoot 50% from three. So that was a cool thing to see. Everybody was kind of getting in on the action there. Obviously, free throws could have been better, but yeah, it doesn't matter when you're up by 40. And a little bit of that comes down to some players on the floor that hadn't been in there a whole lot. A little bit of nerves, maybe miss a few free throws and things of that nature. Nothing crazy. Great win. No shocker, Talia Scott pushed about 30 points in this one. She's been the most consistent player I've ever seen nearly in women's basketball. It's unreal.
Yeah. And so, great win for them. And we'll jump over to Arkansas men's basketball, where kind of opposite news there, as on Saturday they took on number 19 Oklahoma. They lost this game 79-70, but don't let that score it wasn't as close as the score made it seem. We were able to get it closer in a little bit of garbage time points, but this game was a 15, 20-point game midway through the second half, and closing up, and it just seemed like what could go wrong went wrong for Arkansas, not getting the rolls on your layups, and whereas it seemed like Oklahoma, they were getting all those lucky bounces. And it seemed like everything was going their way in this last Cardinal Crimson matchup that we had. And it doesn't help that for the second time in 3 matchups, Coach Musselman was thrown out of this game. Frustration with the referees and not making some calls, and I can understand that being frustrated, but I think Musselman's going to have to calm down a little bit. I saw a stat over the weekend that through these first 10 games here, he's got 8 technicals through the first 10 games. So that's nearly a technical a game. You can't have that. Those technicals can cost you games. That's 2 free throws there per technical. So, that's 16 points right there if you look at it honestly. So I don't know. You talk about leading scorers in this game. Your leading scorer, Khalif Battle, had 13 points. Jeremiah Davenport had 12. Makai Mitchell had 9. So you didn't even break 15 points with your scores. And a guy like Khalif Battle, who averages nearly 17, 18 points a game. Rebounding, we did not rebound well at all. Makai Mitchell, 6. Leading all guys, followed by Jalen Graham with 5 and Devo with 4. And then not to mention, like we said, the shots not falling. Shot 40% from the field, going 20 of 50. 22% from 3, going 4 of 18. Arkansas does better when it's shooting at least mid-30s or higher in its 3-point percentage. Did really well on free throws, 83.9%, making 26 of 31. But when those other shots aren't falling, you can shoot as well as you want from the free throw line, but you got to have those other shots falling. So kind of takeaways from this game.
Well, I actually thought we got to the line pretty well. 31 attempts, making 26 of those is good. However, you can get down low, and we didn't get a lot of and ones because it's like you said, it just seemed like there was a lid on the basket. We were getting good looks at the rim that just weren't falling. They were rimming out, things of that nature, and then we couldn't hit very many threes to get any kind of like streaky momentum, with Battle or somebody like that hitting a couple back to back or something that you've seen in some of these other games early in the season. I think it is a testament to how good Oklahoma is. I think after this win, they were 9-0 or 10-0, something like that. So they've had a very, very good start to their season. So got to give them credit, and a lot of that, I believe, is their defensive ability. I think there was a statistic out there that they haven't allowed an opposing team to have a player score over 16 or 17 points. And that was something that actually you and I had talked about before the game that we thought was critical. If we could have one or two players kind of break that pattern against Oklahoma, we had a good chance at winning. Obviously, that didn't happen, and you kind of see the result of the game. So, obviously, not the best game from Arkansas side of things as far as shooting goes. I think we had a couple careless turnovers. We didn't defend as well on some of our interior rotations either, and I think that hurt us. But overall, I really do think you have to give some credit to Oklahoma as well. They played a great game. Their defense is sneakily way better than a lot of people give them credit for. They're extremely athletic, especially compared to the last couple of years. So tough loss, especially just kind of the way it felt. It didn't ever feel like we ever were in this game or had a shot. The halfway through the first half, it just somehow it felt like they were in our head already, if that makes sense. So kind of a weird game, definitely one you want to learn from, shake a few things off. You shot the ball well from the free throw line, and that's an improvement for us. So maybe a little bit of something to tip your cap to, but a lot of areas we got to improve on if we're wanting to be a deep run March top team. These are the types of teams you're going to face when you're in those tournaments. So got a lot to learn.
Yeah, that's very true. You were talking about, our kind of our big rotation here. A guy that, his name's not mentioned in any of these stats here, Trevor in Brazil. He is a guy that he started this game, coming off that injury versus Furman. There wasn't a lot of anticipation that he would play, but Musman said, depending on how he went through warmups, he would get a chance to go. He went and he was able to start this game, but didn't see a lot of the court in the second half, and I think that was because the game was kind of almost already too far away for why risk him injuring him any further for a game that if he plays, it doesn't really matter if he's in the game or not. And I think one thing that Muss has said after this game, he's still really trying to figure out this team and what rotation works best. You have different guys that bring different aspects of the game. One thing that I notice is it seems like he's a really good player, but it seems like we do a better job of sharing the basketball when a guy like Tremont Mark's not on the court. We do better about, ball movement, flow, and sharing the ball more compared to when he's on the court. He really wants to be kind of an ISO type guy where he's the guy, he's going to go get you a bucket. He's going to, take the man one-on-one, whatever it may be. And I think if you're Mush, you kind of got to get with him and be like, hey, that's great in certain scenarios, but we've also got to share the ball. We've got so many talented guys on this roster, and this roster is so deep that, we can't have one guy trying to be the guy and it end up ultimately hurting the team.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I've seen the same thing. I think Devo's kind of fell into a little bit of that habit himself, and I'm not sure, if Tremont's out there, he starts doing that a couple of possessions, like it almost seems like everybody else starts doing it too. It's very strange, and then we don't end up moving the ball at all. I definitely there was a play in this game where Devo had gotten a rebound and pushed down the court, a little bit of a fast break feel, but it was a 1-on-4 fast break. He kind of drove to the middle of the lane, jumped, had nowhere to go with the ball, couldn't pass anybody because they're all still behind half court nearly, and he just had to throw up a very ugly shot that did not go in. And it was just things like that just felt out of character, even for Devo, which, he's given us some of those frustration plays here and there. And it was like, man, I don't know, but what we're getting some bad habits from some of this isolation style ball that really this team does better without. I don't want to point fingers or anything and say he's a problem because he is a great player and he's a way better defender than I think a lot of people give him credit for. But I think there's going to have to be some adjustments made when Mark is on the floor to kind of get him out of that habit, if that makes sense, and trying to kind of force the flow back into this team. That's where we had a little bit of success earlier in the season when Mark was actually out of the game. We come back home and we had one of the better games of the year against Duke. So that's kind of the example I want to lean back to, that we've got to get back to that style of basketball. We're aggressive on defense, but then we're not one-dimensional on offense.
Yeah, that's very true. And And you hate to see us play well without him because he is a fantastic player. But is it kind of a little thing that's showing up saying he's not fitting as well in the system as a lot of people thought he would coming in? Or maybe just like we said, Musman's still trying to figure out the correct rotation for this team. Another guy that has had good games and has had complete opposite games is a guy like Ellis. He started this game, but then didn't play the entire second half because he came in and made some bad decisions in the first half on some shots, attempts, some passes, things of that nature. And with Eric Musman, they'll get you in the doghouse really fast. So hopefully they come back home. I wouldn't be surprised if you had some more weighted vest and brick practices before, we head down to North Little Rock this weekend to play Lipscomb, but we've really got to win out on the rest of these non-conference games as we get ready for conference play in January. Because of today, I saw some information saying we're not even in Joe Lenardi's field of 64 right now. We don't have any good quad one wins, and it'd be weird for this year to be the year that a Musman team's not in the tournament. But I think if anybody can get this team turned out, it's Coach Muss. I believe him. His track record doesn't lie. You just look at what he's done. Sure, his teams in the past have had little skids. Maybe this one's just coming more earlier than what it normally does in the middle of conference play. So, hopefully we can get things figured out. And by the time conference play gets here, we're ready to start rolling through.
What I'm hoping for, man. Got my fingers crossed.
So as we'll jump over to Arkansas women's basketball, they had another matchup versus an in-state opponent. UAPB came to town. Didn't go exactly as how that last game went, where Arkansas lost this game 74-70, a close one. And this has people scratching their heads. This is the first time that Arkansas has lost to an in-state opponent. Leading scorers for this game, yet again, Talia Scott, 31 points, dropped 30 in this game. Michaela Daniels with 16, Sailor Poffenbarger with 13. Leading rebounders for Arkansas, Sailor Poffenbarger with 10, Samara Spencer with 8, Talia Scott with 6. Arkansas shot the ball decent in this game, 34.4% from the field, 22 of 64, 38.2% from three, going 13 of 34, and 72.2%, 13 of out of 18 from the line. So I don't know if this was a case of you come back out and you just beat a team by 40, and so you think you're going to run away this game. I don't know. It's a really interesting, I guess, change from one game to the next, and I think these are the type of inconsistencies you can't have if you want to start really becoming a consistent program that is going to start trying to make a run towards some tournament appearances.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm trying not to think too much about this loss. I think a lot of people overreacted to it as a close loss against a very underrated UAPB team. Honestly, they're not bad at all. They extremely athletic, fast. I think they turned us over more times than we were used to, and that kind of threw off our pacing a little bit. We didn't shoot the ball horribly, like you said. We shot especially well from three. I think one of the biggest issues is when we did get inside, I think we were a little bit shying away from some contact that could have got us to the free throw line a little bit more and maybe had a bit more of an impact in this game. Only getting to the line 18 times isn't a ton. Women's basketball sometimes a little less anyways, but still, if you could, get that up to kind of that 25 a game mark, that would help you out a lot, get you maybe a few extra free points. And that could, be the difference in this game. But I don't want anybody to overreact. It is weird to lose to UAPB, an in-state opponent, but I do think this is an opportunity to learn from and bounce back on. It's just kind of whatever Neighbors is able to get these girls to respond to learn from this one and move on. Because this could be kind of one of those games where, to me, it almost feels like a little bit of a tipping point. Do you learn from this one and get better from it? Or do you kind of sit there and wallow in it and actually go on a little bit of a regression? It just kind of felt that way to me. So I'm excited to see how they're able to respond to this one. To me, it feels like a good learning opportunity that they could improve from, but jury's out on that.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things a lot of people mentioned. I didn't realize the stat that Coach Neighbors only has 9 scholarship players on his team. So all of our other players must be walk-on or, those type of players. So a lot of people made the point of, could this be a sign that maybe we need more, recruit more for this team and have more than, because I think normal scholarship limit fits anywhere like men's basketball is 12 or 13. So, you've got 2, 3 extra spots sitting there that you could have filled with, more talent. And so I just wonder, but like you said, let's not try to overact too much. Let's bounce back in the next game. They have a game as well on Saturday. They play before the men's team down in North Little Rock. And so they just get back on track there, get ready for conference play as well. I think this team, the talent is there, especially, look at what Talia Scott's done. It's fantastic for her. She got, yet again, SEC Freshman of the Week for the 4th consecutive week. Like Seth said, super consistent, one of the most consistent players we've seen at Arkansas, especially with women's basketball. They, for a freshman to come in and average and points of 20 plus a game, playing 30 plus minutes a game, and it's a talent that Mike Neighbors landed a really good one. And it's not that she's just done this against no name teams. She had this type of performance against Florida State, UCLA, 2 top teams. So the talent's there. It's just being more consistent and not having one good game and then a drop off here. If he can harness that and kind of really get this team on a consistent playing basis, I think you could see them in maybe the top half of the SEC. You still got your LSUs, your South Carolinas that are going to be your 1s and 2s, but maybe we can get up there that 3, 4, 5 range, be that top half of the SEC. And we'll jump down now to Arkansas Volleyball, where they continued their run into the NCAA tournament over the weekend, where they advanced to the Sweet 16 to play Kentucky, where they won this game in exciting fashion, 3-2, where, we got down and then was able to battle back here. Fantastic play there. And then that's kind of where the train stops. We made it to the Elite Eight, facing number 1 seed Nebraska. I think they're the number 1 team in the country. Their record was 31-1. Lost 1 match all season. So Arkansas ran into essentially a buzzsaw there, where they fell 3-1 or 3-1, where Arkansas they're trying to make a comeback there. I think they went down 2-1 and came, and then in that match they had it really close right there on the end. And then a horrible way to lose it is the set point for Nebraska came off of a bad serve by Arkansas, not the way you want to end it. But this is a great season for this Arkansas team. First time to ever make it this far in the tournament for Arkansas. I think the coaches, you got this team building in a great direction, and maybe they can come back off of this great season and build on this towards next season.
Yeah, I think you see that just from the fan outpouring that they got all year long. They set some record attendances for some of the volleyball meets that they had, which that's awesome to see. I think volleyball is getting a lot more recognition at multiple universities, not just Arkansas. Nebraska actually, I think, set the volleyball collegiate attendance record when they hosted a game in their football stadium there, and dang near sold it out. There was 60-something thousand people there for a volleyball match, which is incredible. So I think the sport itself is taking off, which is a good thing to see. And obviously the University of Arkansas is taking advantage of that. The fans came out a lot this year. It's partially due to what they were able to see on the court, though. Had a great year, a great conference record, and it was awesome to see them bounce back and get that win against Kentucky. We talked about it last week that they were kind of due for a win against Kentucky, and it was cool to see them be able to fight that one out and then make it to the Elite Eight for the first time. So a lot of great things going for this program. I see nothing but bright things in the future if the recruiting is able to keep up with the way that college athletics are nowadays. So it's going to be exciting to see if they can run it back next year and maybe make an even deeper run into the tournament. You wish them nothing but success and a great offseason.
Yeah, that's very true. And a couple of players to highlight. Jillian, one of fan favorite for Arkansas this season. After that Elite Eight, the next couple of days, she was actually drafted and selected 10th to the Real Pro Volleyball League, to the Orlando Valkyrie. So, pro volleyball, Arkansas has a couple pro hogs. She got drafted there. And you also had Maggie Cartwright went 22nd overall for the Omaha Supernovas. So, that's even better notoriety for this volleyball program, getting two players to play professionally after, such a great run. I think that just adds to, the how our season went and kind of adds to help recruiting. And, we had co-coach, SEC coach of the year, all region coach of the year. So the coach Justin Watson knows what he's doing. And so, like Seth said, we continue run it back, continue to bring in some good recruits, and maybe Arkansas' volleyball team starts becoming more of a staple in college volleyball. And so we'll jump down here to some upcoming events as Arkansas men's basketball has no midweek game this week as they have a week off and they'll head down to North Little Rock to play Lipscomb at 5 p.m. on December 16th. And then before that, you have Arkansas women's basketball taking on Samford in North Little Rock as well at 12:30. And then gymnastics is here. Arkansas Gymnastics is having their gym back preview on December the 17th at 2 p.m. So get out there, get your first look at this team. It's one of those more of inter squad meets, but you'll get your first look at this 2023/24 gym backs team. They're always exciting. Love to go to those meets when I get a chance. They're always exciting, especially the ones that they do in Bud Walton, and you pack the Bud with huge attendance numbers. It's fantastic. And then Arkansas women's basketball will take on Illinois at 10 a.m. on December the 20th. And yeah, before you know it, gymnastics will be here. We're just right around the corner. February 22nd is the first weekend for Arkansas softball. Baseball is right there as well in end of January, February. So before you know it, we'll have some more stuff going on. But until then, don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. To go check out our YouTube channel, like and subscribe to that. We're dropping this. We had our talk with Taylor Green that we dropped earlier this week. We're going to do more stuff like that, get cool videos out there for you. So thank you for listening to today's episode of Whoop Weekly, and we'll be right back here next week.